Flags are a powerful symbol of identity, but so are crimes that are committed in the name of hate and in the name of racism. How did a picture of the alleged shooter, Dylan Ruff, how did that, on the one hand, spur a narrative change in the Confederate flag, and another, a call for retailers to action?
Two reasons. One, the connection of what happened and the symbol. It was something that was waiting to happen, and timing made it happen. And for retailers, consumers, as you know, vote with their wallet. It's not only about the product. Younger consumers want to say, I like this company, I'm going to support it, I'm going to buy from it. And if they're not doing the right thing, they'll be hung up on the bottom line.
So this is one of those things where we see a tragedy, a horrible massacre, affect the social consciousness?
Yeah, the two issues were out there, and they just got, unfortunately, connected through this tragedy.
Dwayne, this is a debate that preceded last week's shootings in Charleston. How vocal was that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like deja vu for people here in Georgia. We went through a considerable knockdown, drag out over the Confederate battle emblem here more than a decade ago. It used to be part of our state's flag. We had a governor who should have been reelected by a landslide by all experts, who lost in part because he cut a deal with the legislature to get rid of the Confederate battle emblem or to reduce it to a small box on the flag. The winner of that election came back, had promised a referendum, pushed for potentially the Confederate battle emblem to return. The business community, who had fought it before, rose up again and said it would be bad for economic development. They eventually ended up with the flag we have now, which actually is still the Stars and Bars, which were part of the first national flag of the Confederate States. But people largely here believe the debate is in the past in Georgia.
Mr. Adamson, how do you explain the fact that national retailers are pulling the Confederate flag and similar merchandise from their websites and from their store shelves, but manufacturers, their sales of the flag are surging?
It's going to take time for the two to catch up. The retailers and the brands need to do the right thing. They need to follow what's going on and follow their conscience and be good corporate citizens. The manufacturers, when they're not being sold anymore through retail, will soon find out that the market is going to vaporize.
Is this one of those things, sir, where you see people doing stuff not because it's the right thing to do, not because they have some sense of moral outrage, but is it business expediency?
I think they're doing it for both reasons. I think retailers now and brands today need to bend over backwards to do the right thing, because consumers, as I said earlier, vote with their wallet. And if they don't like the behavior of a company, a brand, or an organization, they will let them know very quickly. And social media empowers that.
Dwayne, as you mentioned in Georgia, big fight over the Confederate flag more than a decade ago. At that time, the business community wanted the flag to stay. What's the community, the business community, saying now?
Yeah, I mean, they would absolutely still agree with that. They want no part of that battle emblem in the state. They feel like it makes a southern state look backwards, and it feels like if companies, car makers, for instance, are looking at a couple of states, they may shy away from a state that, in essence, with a symbol, tells part of its population that maybe they're worth less than another part of the population. So you're not going to see any big fights over that now. But there are people who still believe that flag represents the South. It represents the pride of the South. I think that's becoming more and more clear that that's a difficult argument to make. In the least, it's an argument that, in essence, shows a lack of empathy for another part of the population, and especially given what that flag represents in the past.
Mr. Adamson, you spoke a moment ago about the Internet. Our colleagues in Bloomberg Editorial, they wrote the following today, and I quote, "While governments may take 150 years to act, e-commerce can move in a flash." Has the Internet helped to change the heritage versus racism debate in the southern U.S.?
I think the more knowledge and more information sharing that happens, the faster policies have to change, the faster brands have to react, the faster marketers have to react. So I think it has put a magnifying glass on what was always true and turned up the volume and moved to action faster.
And, sir, some of these retailers who decided they weren't going to sell a flag or pull some of that merchandise, is there a risk for them doing so?
No. The risk would be to continue to sell the merchandise. They are doing the prudent thing for their brand and for their business, which is following what's happening on social media, following how people feel about them, and following good corporate citizenship.